Okay, so we've been doing pretty much all our work on Linux, but you may not have a Linux box, and you may want to do Solidity on your Windows laptop. Couple of options. First of all, you could set up a virtual machine, download VirtualBox and set that up. You can download a version of Ubuntu and just start. Do your thing. And then just do it the same way that we've been doing it. Now, of course, the another easy way is to use Remix, which I think as a beginner is the easiest way. And this is the let's see here. Let's move this up. This here is the documentation that is provided by Solidity, and they talk about Remix. Now they talk about Node.js, and that's how I chose to do it on here. Now you can also use the Visual Code Editor. They have some plugins. I have not been able to get them the on Windows. I have not been able to get the compiler to talk to the plugin as I had on Linux. You can also use Docker. I Docker is kind of nice because you kind of have pre-prepared environments. And unfortunately, I'm not a Docker expert. I really to since I'm getting, any of us getting involved in this bleeding edge, blockchain, any of the bleeding edge, Docker is a good thing to know because it it lets you set something up and it doesn't uh you don't have to worry about the rest is going on your machine. It's its own little thing, and it's very nice in that way. You can set up a Docker instance, run Docker to do your experimentation, and you're not going to hurt your machine. And of course, they talk about Linux. Again, you can do that on if you have a Windows box, you can set up a virtual box and put a version of Linux on it and do it that way. So what I did is I did install Node.js on here, and you can see npm, uh, and I did install Solidity.js. I use the JavaScript thing here that they talk about. Um, so they, so yeah, so this, I don't know if this is the best, if this is actually the best, only because it's not compatible with Get. Um, Command line options are not. However, you can compile it and then you could do an install. That's one way of doing it. I think if you're on Windows, probably Remix is the easiest. Now, of course, you can also bring in Truffle. So you can do npm, and I think, don't know, let's check that. Let's go and find Truffle. Uh, Truffle Suite. So let's see docs, Truffle, and installation. So we have Node.js. Okay. If you're running, you may have that could prevent Truffle from executing properly. That's interesting. So, one thing if you wanna, I don't know, we can still do the npm install. let's see what happens. npm install -g truffle. Well, it's installing. They talk about naming conventions. So if you run into a problem, they do have a link here. You can't say let me show you what's going on here. Let's bring this on top. You can see I'm installing it with the normal npm. However, they do point out that you can have conflicts. So let's see what that has to say. When using the font name goes the way command. So probably the easiest thing, they talk about a number of ways, workarounds that are fairly easy. So if you are a Windows person, you are not out of luck. You can still run Truffle, and you can still get a version of Solang. I would probably argue you want to use one of the pre-packaged. Well, you got a couple. You can use pre-packaged, which is your Truffle suite. You can use Remix, and you can run that. Or if you really want to, geek out over this, my guess is you should be able to compile. Let's see, static binaries. You can probably compile it from scratch, and we did do a video on that a while ago. So that that's a little bit more time consuming, but if it certainly you'll certainly learn something by doing it. And you can see it's still going. So it can install, and they do recommend using PowerShell, which is kind of the advanced version of, let's see what happens. I am going to bring up PowerShell and see. Let's bring this in here so that you can see it. PowerShell's kind of nice for command lines with, if you have command lines that, stuff to do. There you go. So let's have a look. Let's see. It's interesting. It's actually bigger in here in OBS than it is on my. Okay, so let's see. Let's see. Truffle. Let's see. Just okay. It is okay. So you know what? You probably want to do this. Probably want to run Truffle. Not Truffle. PowerShell as admin, but it does not like the security settings on PowerShell. Let's see if we can do if that fixes it. I don't know if I'm trying to remember PowerShell ISC. Let's see if that has the same issue. Yeah, it does. Um, so you'd have to let it run scripts. Uh, so, but that is an option. Uh, it's actually, well, that's interesting. Ran it, let's see it. No. You're gonna have to, if you want to run PowerShell, you're gonna have to play with it. But there are so many other options in terms of, I think, as I guess I've been saying, it looks like Remix is the easiest choice. So, hopefully this has been helpful. I realize that I've been leaving the Windows folks out, and I want to talk about their options for doing this stuff. And it looks basically, if you really want to get, I am a personal believer that for development work, you're better off using Linux. Um, it's just so much nicer for developers, and I always prefer to use. I don't always get to use it. I've been on, on in situations where it was a Windows, shop, but recent years it's mostly been on Linux. It's just a it's just a better tool for developers. We saw how easy it was to set up the tools on the Linux machine as opposed to trying to get things to work on Windows. Like I said, I was able to get with Microsoft Code, Visual Studio Code. I was able to get Rust and I was able to get Solidity to compile. You can very easily you can very easily install tool chains on there. So I guess the conclusion is either get if you if you're trying to follow these things and play with these things, if you can set yourself up a cheap Linux box, that would be great. What I ended up doing is I bought it, I think for $200, not very much money. I got a refurb business computer. That's the box I mostly use that you've seen me use. Um, Gee, you can't see me right now. So let's do that. So I've mostly used the a Linux box that I built I bought a refurbished computer off of Amazon. I put in a little extra memory. That's important. I put in an extra hard drive when I started getting real low on hard drive. So it didn't cost a lot of money. If getting another machine is not an option, set up a virtual machine. Throw on Ubuntu 20.4 or something like that, and you can follow along with all the lessons we've done. But if that's not possible, we've seen my experimentation tonight tells me it's a little bit of a pain uh, to try to use something other than Remix on a pure Windows box. So and VirtualBox sometimes it take a little bit of setting up as well. If you want to see a video on that, put it in the comments. I ran into the main issue I ran into setting up VirtualBox on the Linux machine is your BIOS on your uh, x86 machine may have virtualization turned off. If you get that error, you have to go into the BIOS and turn it on. And then once I did that, and it worked like a champ. So, and it certainly worked like a champ downstairs where I set it up there to do the Radix DLT demos because initially I ran into something trying to put it on the Linux box, so it's just easier. So you have many options, and again, hopefully this has been helpful. If it has, please give a like. Please subscribe. Please share it with your friends. Please ring the bell to get further videos, and I will speak to you next time.